Welcome to the Highlands Latin School Upper School Recitation. This morning, select students from grades 7 through 12 will recite portions of great literature, which they have committed to memory. The memorization of literature has always been an important component of education at HLS. And although you will hear just a handful of students, each one of them is a representative of his or her classmates who have also committed many selections to memory. Students who are reciting, whenever it is your turn to recite, please come up to the microphone as a group and just approach the microphone that is closest to you. Again, we thank you for coming. Please enjoy the students' recitations, the singing, and the music.
The Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the burrow groves, and the mumraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the maxim foe he sought. Then rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tungy wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, calloo, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the burrow groves, and the mumraths outgrabe.
Put it down.
The Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us further than today. Art is long, time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums are beating, funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us, we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time, footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
A Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, and took the other as just as fair, though having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Odyssey, lines 1 through 18, translated by Robert Fitzgerald. Sing in me, muse, and through me tell the story of that man skilled in all ways of contending. The wanderer harried for year on end after he plundered the stronghold on the proud heights of Troy. He saw the townlands and learned the minds of many distant men, and weathered many bitter nights and days in his deep heart at sea, while he fought only to save his life, to bring his shipmates home. But not by will nor valor could he save them, for their own recklessness destroyed them all. Children and fools, they killed and feasted on the cattle of Lord Helios the sun. And he who moves all day through heaven took from their eyes the dawn of their return. Of these adventures muse, daughter of Zeus, tell us in our time, lift the great song again.
The Aeneid, the invocation of the Muse. I sing of arms and of a man, fated to be in exile, who long since left the land of Troy and came to Italy, to the shores of Lavinium. And a great pounding he took by land and sea, by the hands of the heavenly gods, and the fierce and unforgetting anger of Juno. Great too were his sufferings in war, before he could found his city and carry his gods into Latium. This was the beginning of the Latin race, the Alban fathers and the high walls of Rome. Tell me, Muse, the causes of her anger. How did he violate the will of the queen of the gods? What was his offense? Why did she drive a man famous for his piety to such endless hardship and such suffering? Can there be so much anger in the hearts of the heavenly gods?
Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Helena's Soliloquy. How happy some or other some may be. Through Athens I am thought as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know what all but he do know. And as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities, things base and vile, holding no quantity. Love can transpose to form and dignity. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste. Wings and no eyes, figure unheedy haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled. As waggish boys in game themselves forswear, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eyne, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. And when this hail some heat from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Then to the wood will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But herein mean I to enrich my pain, to have his sight, thither and back again.
The Outcast by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. 3 women stood by the river's flood and the gas lamp's murky light. A devil watched them on the left and an angel on the right. The clouds of lead flowed overhead, the leaden stream below. They marveled much, that outcast 3, why fate should use them so. Said one, I have a mother dear, who lieth ill abed, and by my sin the wage I win, from which she hath her bread. Said one, I am an outcast child, and such I came on earth. If me ye blame for this my shame, who blame me for my birth? The third she sank a sin-blotched face, and prayed that she might rest in the weary flow of the stream below, as on her mother's breast. Now past there came a godly man, of goodly stock and blood, and as he passed, one frown he cast at that sad sisterhood. Sorely it grieved that godly man to see so foul a sight. He turned his face and strode apace, and left them to the night. But the angel drew her sisters 3 within her pinion span, and the crouching devil slunk away to join the godly man.
The Seafarer, lines 35 through 51. No heart for the harp has he, nor for acceptance of treasure. No pleasure has he in a wife, no delight in the world, nor in aught save the roll of the billows, but always a longing, a yearning uneasiness hastens him on to the sea. The woodlands are captured by blossoms, the hamlets grow fair. Broad meadows are beautiful, earth again bursts into life, and all stir the heart of the wanderer, eager to journey, so he meditates going afar on the pathway of tides. The cuckoo, moreover, gives warning with sorrowful note. Summer's harbinger sings and forebodes to the heart bitter sorrow. The nobleman comprehends not, the luxurious man, what some must endure who travel the farthest in exile. Now my spirit uneasily turns in the heart's narrow chamber, now wanders forth over the tide, or the home of the whale, to the ends of the earth, and comes back to me. Eager and greedy, the lone wanderer screams and resistlessly drives my soul onward, over the whale path, over the tracks of the sea.
Pater hemon ha entois uronois, hagiastheto ta anamasu, eltheto he basileasu, genetheto ta thalemasu, hosen urono kai epitesges. Ton arton hemon, ton epiusion, dos hemin semeron, kai aphes hemin, ta aphelemata hemon, hos kai hemes aphemen, tois avaletais hemon, kai me esenenkes, hemas es erasman, ala rusai hemas, apa tu panaru. Amen.
Nothing is so beautiful as spring, when weeds and wheels shoot long and lovely and lush. Thrush's eggs look little low heavens, and thrush, through the echoing timber does so rinse and ring. The ear, it strikes like lightning to hear him sing. The glassy pear tree leaves and blooms they brush. The descending blue, that blue is all in a rush, with richness. The racing lambs too have fair their fling. What is all this juice and all this joy? A strain of the earth's sweet being in the beginning, an Eden garden. Have, get, before it cloy, before it cloud, Christ, Lord, and sour with sinning, innocent mind and Mayday and girl and boy. Most, O maid's child, thy choice and worthy the winning.
Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime decline, by chance, or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in the shade, when in eternal lines the time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
The opening lines of Paradise Lost by John Milton. Of man's first disobedience, and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world, and all our woe, with loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us, and regain the blissful seat. Sing, heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Oreb, or of Sinai, didst inspire that shepherd, who first taught the chosen seed in the beginning, how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos. Or if Sion hill delight thee more, and Siloa's brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God, I thence invoke thy aid to my adventurous song, that with no middle flight intends to soar above the Aeonian mount, while it pursues things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. And chiefly thou, O Spirit, that dost prefer before all temples the upright heart and pure, instruct me, for thou knowest, thou from the first was present, and with mighty wings outspread, dove-like satst brooding on the vast abyss, and madest it pregnant. What in me is dark illumine, what is low raise and support, that to the height of this great argument I may assert eternal providence and justify the ways of God to man.
I wandered lonely as a cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet cannot be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
composed upon Westminster Bridge by William Wordsworth. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. Ships, towers, domes, theaters, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did the sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt, a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still.
Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon is fair upon the straits. On the French coast a light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast upon the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen. You will hear the grating roar of pebbles, which the waves draw back and fling, at their return, up the high strand, begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Sophocles heard it long ago upon the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in this sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith, too, was once at the full, and round the earth like a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, up the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Ah, love, let us be true to one another, for this world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And here we are, as on a darkling plain, swept by confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
A Tale of Two Cities Introduction by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times.
It was the worst of times.
It was the age of wisdom.
It was the age of foolishness.
It was the epoch of belief.
It was the epoch of incredulity.
It was the season of light.
It was the season of darkness.
It was the spring of hope.
It was the winter of despair.
We had everything before us.
We had nothing before us.
We were all going direct to heaven.
We were all going direct the other way.
In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only.
There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England.
There was a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France.
In both countries, it was clearer than crystal to the lords, the state preserves, the loaves and fishes, that things in general were settled forever.
Piece of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub, for in that sleep of death what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrongs, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that the patient merit takes from the unworthy when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would fardels bear to sweat and grunt under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought. And enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
midway in our life's journey, I went astray from the straight road and woke to find myself alone in a dark wood. How shall I say what a wood that was? I never saw so drear, so rank, so arduous a wilderness. Its very memory gives a shape to fear. Death could scarce be more bitter than that place. But since it came to good, I will recount all that I found revealed there by God's grace. How I came to it, I cannot rightly say. So drugged and loose with sleep had I become when I first wandered there from the true way. But at the far end of that valley of evil, whose maze had sapped my very heart with fear, I found myself before a little hill and lifted up my eyes. Its shoulders glowed already with the sweet rays of that planet whose virtue leads men straight on every path. And the shining strengthened me against the fright whose terrors had racked my heart through all the agonies of that piteous night.
Virgil's crown and mitre speech from Dante's Purgatorio. My son, he said, you now have seen the torment of the temporary and the eternal fires. Here now is the limit of my discernment. I have led you here by grace of mind and art. Now let your own good pleasure be your guide. You are past the steep ways, past the narrow part. See there the sun which shines upon your brow, the sweet new grass, the flowers, the fruited vines, which spring up without need of seed or plow. Until those eyes come gladdened, which in pain moved me to come to you and wander through your way, sit there at ease or wander through the plain. Expect no more of me in word or deed. Here your will is upright, free, and whole, and you would be in error not to heed whatever your own impulse prompts you to. Lord of yourself, I crown and mitre you.